Hi, friend. Welcome to episode 12 of Legal Content Chat. I'm very glad that you're here with us today. I'm your host, Becky, and I'm here every Wednesday with a brand new guest in the hot seat. We'll kick off with a little bit about me. It is my gig after all. So I am a copywriter and strategist for the legal industry. That means that I help law firms and legal professionals get seen by their target audience through the medium of content. That's normally through blog articles and website content. One of my clients has been ranking on page 1 of Google for his niche keywords for over 6 months now. So that's the kind of thing I can help you do too. But moving swiftly on, let's talk to today's guest, Elena. Elena Manukyan is building a socially legal, a social media and influencer marketing agency for the legal space. She's certainly got plenty of interesting stories to tell us, which I'm going to let her do in a moment. So today we're going to be talking about how to get social media right in a boring niche. So if you're thinking your legal niche is dull, nobody wants to hear about it on social media, sorry, but you're wrong. There is always a way to market it. So let's hear from the lady herself. Take it away.
Wow, thank you for that introduction, Becky.
Pleasure.
I have no idea why. But yes, so my name's Elena, and I'm the founder of Socially Legal, and I'm pretty sure one of my team members is taking a video of me doing this introduction, and that's just what happens, right? Our cameras are always out now. If you work in social media, as we do,
Yeah.
our phones are in our hands, and we kind of get a free pass with that. But yes, so I'm Elena. I am a solicitor by profession. I have been in personal injury law for my entire legal career, which I found out this morning was almost 12 years. So I've been in the legal space for a while. I've had every job within a law firm, from opening post to being a partner. I then set up my own law firm, a personal injury firm, in 2020, the year of the pandemic. That was my first crazy decision. I then sold out of that firm actually last year to focus on socially legal. Full time and give it my full attention. So it's another baby business of mine. I don't know why I keep doing it to myself, but I do. And here we are. And yes, it's just as stressful and challenging and anxiety inducing a second time round as it is the first time. But I'm doing something that I actually quite enjoy. I don't know whether I'm any good at it so far, but it's a totally different industry. Marketing and marketing legal services is wild. It's a bit crazy. Social media is very fast moving, and we focus solely on social media. And the reason for that, the reason why I decided to pivot so heavily, is because I use social media to get all my clients. For when I started my law firm, I got majority of my clients either through LinkedIn or Instagram. I didn't use platforms. Well, I didn't use TikTok, but we'll come on to the sort of like the discussions and nuances of the different platforms because they are really interesting from a legal perspective. But that was the reason why I decided to pivot, because when I did start getting really busy within the law firm, I wanted to outsource my social media activity to somebody else, and I just couldn't find an agency to really take over at that point. So I thought, well, why don't I see if I can set something up? And it sounds really simple, and it's really not. That's how. So we formally launched in June. So I think I did a post this morning saying it's been 6 months. It's been a bit longer than 6 months, but so far it's just all blurred into one. But yeah, that's us in a nutshell. So we act. So who do we actually act for? So we act for law firms, helping them with their social media activity, depending on what their objectives are. And I've also had a fair bit of interest from businesses who want to sell to lawyers. So they kind of assume that me being a lawyer, I would think like a lawyer, which I suppose I do in a lot of ways, and then maybe create content that resonates with lawyers, that you can cut through that noise and help businesses whose target audience are lawyers to sell to them through social media or digital marketing.
Amazing. Thank you for that background. And what I love about you and your brand is that you document everything on social media. So we get the highs, we get the lows, and I know what it's like to start a business. It's really, really hard, especially when you're doing it all on your own in the beginning. You have to wear all of the hats. So yeah, I really love the honesty that comes across in your approach, which is really nice to see online.
I don't post as much as I should. So the problem with doing personal branding for your clients and posting on their LinkedIn and ghostwriting for them is that you forget to do your own. So like
Yeah,
it's like the cobbler's shoe analogy, right? It's like your
yeah,
own, like, if you're a web developed company, your own website needs update, your own social media needs work. And I'm always kind of like saying to people, like, we need to treat ourselves as our number one client. But that often doesn't really work out because our clients do essentially come first when it's in the pecking order of where our attention goes. But I could do with posting more, with highlighting more. Sometimes I feel like I fall into the same trap that all my clients do, and I don't take my own advice in that I think, oh, this is boring. No one's going to be interested in this. Why am I posting about this? I'm boring myself, let alone anyone else. And you kind of like get yourself stuck in a bit of a rut when it comes to that. And yeah, this is a timely reminder to maybe post a bit more because opportunities like this come out. And this is what I always say to my
Mhm.
clients: it's not just about posting, there's so much more around it.
Yeah.
And actually, the purpose of social media is actually to take it off social media. And I think a lot of people actually forget that that is the overall aim, to take relationships off screens and off those platforms and develop them into either clients or business opportunities. But actually, that's where you nurture it, but it grows somewhere else.
Yes, absolutely. And because on social media, they are, as everybody calls it, your rented audience. You don't really, they don't belong to you necessarily. So that's definitely a good thing
Absolutely.
to remember. I always forget to say this, guys. Please feel free to pop your questions and comments in the box. We would love to hear from you. So any questions you have for us, please hit up that box. So we've called this event "How to Get Your Social Media Right in a Boring Legal Niche." So what do you think? What might be boring legal niches? Let's hear it. You did warn me before we came on air that you would
Yeah.
controversial, so let's have it.
Yeah, so we've learned since starting this business, I've had a different perspective and I speak to so many law firms. I've got two consultations later today, and I can almost like play out what the consultations are like a lot of the time, where people will say like, oh, it's boring, or how do you market this law firm? How do you market this service? I can tell you right now, it's not the niche that's boring. It's often the people that are the boring element. And I'll tell you why. I actually don't think lawyers are boring. I think they're some of the most fascinating and interesting people that we can come across. And that's not me being biased and saying that because I'm a lawyer. It's actually because they are, and they have all the stories and they have all the content, they have all the knowledge, in their heads. It's just getting that across into content that the social media platforms want. That's what's difficult, and that's where a lot of the blockers come from. Because in social legal, we focus on social media, right? So we can only help a business that wants to grow using TikTok, Instagram, or LinkedIn. We don't stray into other areas like newsletters, SEO, websites. We don't do any of that. But what we do is we do socials, and we try and do them as best as we can. Um, the difficulties is that when you have a service-based business that you work with, your people are your commodity, right? So it's a bit like, so I'll speak to lawyers who say, no, nobody wants to be on camera, or nobody wants to create videos, nobody wants to talk about their experience in a video that we can then post on our socials. And I'm talking about businesses that have up to 200 people. I'm like, that can't be true. There must be somebody within the business that actually wouldn't mind being involved. And if they knew exactly what was required of them, with our guidance and with our help, sometimes in-house teams just don't have the expertise. And what happens as well is I speak to law firms and they say, well, our in-house marketing people are just like mini lawyers. They're just like another legal department because they become institutionalized because they've been around lawyers for
Yeah,
so long. They start to
yeah,
think like them, they start to look like them, they start to dress like them, and then suddenly the creativity is kind of lost. That spark is lost. Which I suppose when you work with an outsourced agency, we try not to lose that spark. I mean, it's hard, and I still have a lawyer's head. Like I still very much think like a lawyer a lot of the time, and that's my sort of I don't know, struggle, I guess, to get into a different headspace. But yeah, I don't think the niche is boring. I think there are challenges around who your target audience is, and we'll get into a little bit on persona work. But I think the one thing that I say to lawyers is look, why do you want to use social media? When we have consultations, a lot of the time people are very, very confused. They're not actually sure what we can maybe help with, or why they should be on social media. They've just maybe heard it's like a new thing, or they need to consider it, or their competitors are doing it, but they need to understand like what benefit is going to bring to their organization. And a lot of businesses will say, we don't need more work, we're really busy. So I get this quite a bit. I know lawyers are busy, right? This is why I set up this agency, so they don't have to worry about things like this, but they're still busy with the legal work. So they say, well, we don't want more clients, but maybe they need to recruit, and that's where social media can help as well. There's a whole host of things that social media can help with that isn't just about finding new clients, but it can certainly help with that if you do it right. So yeah, no boring niche, unfortunately, just some boring people sometimes, and we have ways around that, by the way. There are solutions to that problem.
Okay, so what's the most common solutions that you can give law firms that feel that way?
If a law firm comes to us and they're a small firm, and we've definitely exhausted, and if they're a larger firm, we look at like, look, there must be somebody within the firm that may be interested in getting involved. It may be the younger, sort of more junior members of staff that are more comfortable on camera, that could create some content. But some of the solutions that we have within the agency is actually touching on the other side of the business, which is the legal influencer agency. So we actually
Mhm.
have a roster. We have a roster of 25 legal influencers. And I say the word legal influencers, assuming everybody knows what I'm talking about, and I know that they don't. And I get stopped in calls and consultations like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I live and breathe it, but other people really don't." And basically it's people who have already built up large online followings across
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn, but law is the theme that they have within their content. So they're either law students, the legal apprentices, they could be junior, like trainee solicitors,
Yeah.
paralegals, all the way through to solicitors and law firm owners. They're just people with big online personalities. So we can tap into that. And what they do is they can not only promote the business to their audience, permitted it doesn't breach, any sort of like any contracts that they've already got.
Mhm.
Or they can actually create video content that law firms can use in their own. So that's known as UGC content, user generated content. So they can create
Mhm.
the videos, they can do the talking videos, they can explain legal principles that on camera and do it confidently because it's something that they're doing in their day to day. It is a bit like outsourcing a thing, and some law firms don't like the idea of that. And then I say, well, then we need to look at another option, and that's again going back to, well, who do you have in your business? And if you don't, then we need to look at somebody else who may be able to plug that content gap. um, but I think the other bit that might be worth mentioning is actually, before you can even do that, um, you've got to go back and do your client persona work. And we've learned this
Yeah.
the really, really difficult way. And a lot of lawyers don't do this. A lot of business owners, I think, fail to do this. We failed at the outset to do this in socially legal. I didn't do it when I had my law firm, and I wish I did, because I could have done it probably a lot better. But actually understanding your clients. Um, and that's really, really important, because when you understand your clients and who your client is, you can understand where they hang out when they're online, if social media is something that you're thinking about, because different people will spend more time on different platforms, and it doesn't matter what content you create, who creates it. It could be the biggest influencer that you can find. If you're not actually posting it to the right platforms where your ideal target audience are, it's not going to work. And we've learned this the hard way, so I kind of want to share that so other people don't. But if you are a law firm that targets private individuals, so personal injury, maybe conveyancing, criminal, road traffic offences, if you're looking at social media, I can say now, looking back at the data we have over the last 6 to 8 months, TikTok is going to be the platform that you want to look at the most, above
Mhm.
Instagram and above LinkedIn. Um, And if you are on the other side where you target businesses or you want to target business clients for your law firm, you want to be really looking at LinkedIn, and not just LinkedIn company pages. The reach for people is far greater than a company page. You can post a single post from an individual account, and that could have a greater reach than a post off a company page. And actually, sometimes when we look back at 30 days worth of data, the company page doesn't even reach as many people as a single
Mm.
post from an individual. So when you look back at that data, you kind of realize how important personal brand is.
Absolutely. I think it's good to have a company page, good to show your presence, but you do need to be doing it all from your personal page. So TikTok, yeah. I mean, this is something I've dabbled a little bit in. How does that what kind of reaction do you get from law firms when you mention TikTok?
Um, the problem that I face the most is that a lot of people that I speak to, the more senior partners, the managing partners, the directors of law firms, they don't know the platform. So you have a different type of business owner that you speak to a lot of the time.
Mhm.
They haven't grown up with that social media
Yeah.
kind of being part of their lives as much. When I speak to younger sort of like law firm, like the next, what I call them as a next generation of law firm owner. So somebody in their 30s, maybe early 40s. I started my firm when I was 30. So I mean, I didn't grow up with social media. That came in when I was in university, but we've used it, and it's been a big part of our lives. Selling them TikTok, or the idea of TikTok, is far easier than somebody who has never sort of had any engagement with the platform. Um, I think they kind of trust our opinion on it,
Mm.
and also they sort of think, well, what harm is there in giving something a try? And they're kind of like the people that we want to work with, like that are up for,
Mhm.
letting us try and see how it goes. I think it's just about following the data and the numbers, and TikTok just has
Mm.
that reach. And you just yeah, when you look at the figures, I can say that TikTok is the platform that is where most people are spending a lot of their time. And if people are who you're after, like private clients, then I
Mhm.
definitely consider that. Yeah, the responses from law firms are mixed. Their biggest concern is the video, is how do you get the video, what type of content do you
Yeah.
do. And I always give a few examples. If anybody's ever seen the Legal Queen on there, family and divorce lawyer, 500,000 followers, absolutely smashing it on that platform. And all she does, there's a lot that goes on into her videos, but she just answers the most common questions that she gets
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
camera. It's super simple, super straightforward. That works really, really well. But what people don't see is, how long she's been doing that for.
Mhm.
All the work that goes into the background. But it's doable. Essentially, you can do it if you're prepared to.
Absolutely. And, any kind of marketing, and I always bang on about this as well, it's obviously about the awareness piece, but then it's about the trust and the confidence. And to get people to trust your business and your services, you need to somehow convey that message to them. And video is so impactful to do that. So whether you're doing it via a video on LinkedIn or whether you're doing it on TikTok, if you can answer those questions, which comes back to knowing your audience that they're asking you in a really reassuring way, then you will get more leads. It's just as simple as that. That's what will happen. So, and it all depends on, I guess, works best for your firm and your brand as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's really important that if we're talking to lawyers and law firms, people who want to maybe generate their own work, there's only so many ways that a law firm can generate leads.
Mhm.
But the way law firms are now undertaking business development, it is changing. I'm seeing bigger firms now, having a unified approach to LinkedIn, where you can see that everybody has a profile picture with a similar colors. They have
Mhm.
banners. You can see that more people are posting from the business, so you can see that internally they've got a push. So when businesses, when a law firm talks to me, they normally want one of three things. They want to use social media to get more leads, recruit people, or for brand awareness. your brand awareness piece, that's where LinkedIn and a uniformed approach across the platform could work really, really well. But again, it utilizes the people. Like, I have like I've got to like serve some hard truths a lot of the time, and I say, look, nobody's going to want to follow your housing disrepair law firm on Instagram, um, or a LinkedIn page. Like, nobody is sitting around thinking, oh, we should follow this law firm. Like, they're just not. I think we forget why people actually go on social media a lot of the time, especially platform like TikTok. Is to escape reality. It's to actually not think about work. It's not to think about everyday life. So how can you, as a legal service provider, cut through that noise? And by the way, there's no answer to this. Like, I don't have, like, the best marketing people in the world don't have an answer to this. That's like, how do you do that? And a lot of that actually, the answer that I do have is like, it's about raising brand awareness, but not in a salesy way. TikTok says make TikToks, not ads. um how do you, to me, brand awareness, and not a single law firm has ever said this to me, is if I ask them, like, what does it mean to you, the ideal answer would be somebody has that problem, we're the first firm that they think of when they come up against that problem. Because the chance of somebody needing your service at the point that they see your video on TikTok is quite slim. That's not how services are bought and sold. Social media, there's a lot of brand building around it, where if you're giving somebody knowledge and you're sharing your expertise, but you're doing it in an interesting way, people will follow that account and they will engage in it. And at some point, they might need to recommend your services, or they might need to use your services themselves. um, but it's worth remembering that as solicitors, we're technically distress purchases. And I heard that once, and I thought, wow, that's true. Like, nobody's sitting
Yeah.
about like kind of like thinking, oh, like, let me chat to a solicitor, or let me just see. Like, it's very, very rare to be doing that. So we are a distress purchase. It's worth remembering that when we do kind of create content around that. Um, yeah, it's this is the
That's
the headache that I have, a daily headache, unfortunately. But it's interesting. It is interesting. But the personal branding side is where you can make, I think, a real impact. And I think, LinkedIn is a platform that, by the way, I didn't really use before 2020. So I'm a relatively new user, but since the pandemic, it's completely is transformed. So many people do business over that platform, or meet create new connections, and then, yeah, take it hopefully take it offline at a point, and put that into the real world.
Yeah, it's such an incredible, powerful platform. I absolutely love it. I'm on it all the time. I'm always saying, like, oh, so and so and so and so. My husband was like, oh, where do you know them from? Like, LinkedIn. Yeah, they're my new friends. All these people on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy, but I do always say that's a great start. So I still speak to a lot of people who are thinking of starting their own law firms, and I still love those conversations. But I'll always start off, but like, by like, before you even start on LinkedIn, like, do the people around you know what you do? I realized that, like, even some of my family didn't really know what I did, and like, when they had accidents, they would go to another I remember finding out someone went to another personal injury solicitor, and it was just not a good
No.
moment for me or them. And I was like, why would you not and I get it, right? I get it that they might not, there's a lot of personal data and information that is shared in a PI claim, so they might not necessarily want me to deal with that. But they hadn't even had a consultation with me or a chat with me, or to see, like, if and I just remember thinking, like, that I'm doing something wrong, because online marketing is just one part, right, Becky? And you'll know that because you
Yeah.
offer a whole different host of services. And obviously, I refer clients to you that I don't do newsletters. We don't do that. So we need somebody else to be able to refer that onto. But even before you do that, like, I always say to them, you're thinking of starting a law firm. Okay, fantastic. Who are you going to target? Let's say it's personal injury. Do your neighbors know what you do? Like, if does your next door neighbor um, know what you do? And a lot of people will say, oh, actually, no, they don't. I'm like, but why not? Start small, start in your local area.
Yeah.
I had claims from my neighbors, which makes it awkward sometimes if the case isn't going
Yeah.
too well. But you want that. You want people to know that, because a digital presence is just one part of it. There's networking, there's all that all works.
Yeah,
together. And
yeah,
it's not just
that's
like
good.
that. So the other thing that I have is law firms assume that social media will be the silver bullet. They've exhausted all their other options. You know, PPC is super expensive. Depending on what area of law you're in, you might be relying on claims management companies to be recommending you to their clients. You might be relying on other marketing methods, other lead generation methods, and a lot of them are exhausted. And then we've kind of got this next generation of legal service user who are turning 18. Obviously, under 18, you're still a child, so you're not. Then you might not necessarily. They might not be your target audience. With TikTok, 80% of the users are between 16 and 34. Um,
Mhm.
that that is changing though, and law firms now need to think about how do they target maybe the people that are maybe first time having accidents. I speak to young
Yeah,
people all the time. They don't even realize they can make a claim after a certain scenario. They haven't really grown up with cold calling or
yeah,
seen the
yeah,
adverts on TV. They spend most of the time in TikTok. So
yeah.
how do you then reach them? Because that's a different demographic of person that needs to be reached in a different way than what you've maybe previously done. Um, people that are buying houses for the first time, they're going to fall into this, well, not 16, but certainly the 22 or 24 to 34 age
Mhm.
category. They're going to be looking for conveyancing solicitor. They might be losing their job for the first time. They might be needing an employment solicitor, or they might be experiencing an injury that they didn't even know that they could claim for. There's a whole host of different problems that that kind of demographic have. It's just how do you reach them? Like people, don't watch. Apparently, people don't watch TV anymore. They watch TikTok. TikTok is now introducing 30-minute clips to try and push YouTube users onto their platform.
Mhm.
So they're going for long form content, and it's now it outperforms Google as a search engine. So in certain scenarios.
Yeah.
So how do you then utilize that platform?
That is
It's a
so
bit.
that is so interesting, and you've got to go where your audience are. That is the name number one here. So we've
And
had a
now,
couple of questions,
yeah.
which is lovely. So one question for you, Elena. So Ashley has asked us, what platforms would you suggest are most popular for family law? Are there any specific platforms you would suggest?
Family law is going to be TikTok, and if you've not checked her out, the Legal Queen, check her out.
Yeah,
She
brilliant.
is a superstar on there, and I would definitely say that TikTok. What's really really important about TikTok though is you've got to find your talk. And honestly, I make myself cringe sometimes with some of the words that I now that I now use that I didn't even know existed 6 months ago. Someone had to tell me what UGC meant, and it was someone I was interviewing, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask you what that means." User-generated content, for anybody wondering, it's where people create content for you, that you
Yeah.
can then use. I did not know that, but yeah, finding your talk, family talk, law talk is a big thing. It's all about finding a little niche on that platform that you can kind of fit into. So law talk will be one for us, agency talk, family talk. It may be that you might target like moms potentially who may be going
Yeah.
through a divorce or needing family talk type of like family channels. You may even want to look at partnering with influencers or UGC creators to create that content if you don't want to create it yourself. The family sector on TikTok apparently is like booming. There's like gardening talk, there's grand talk, there's for the more senior, older generation. It's a wild place. It's fun
Yeah.
to be on there. And one of my favorite things to do, right? This is going to make me sound really strange. Is I get the bus to work and back, and I absolutely love it. Because whenever my husband's like, "I'll drop you in," I'm like, "No, I want to sit on the bus because I sit on the little upper level and I just watch what people are scrolling on, what makes them stop." To me, I've
Amazing.
got to understand that. I've got to understand like that kind of behavior that people are displaying. Like, why are they stopping on certain things? Different ages, different people will stop on different things, and it is such a fascinating like research thing to do. I'm obsessed with doing that. I'm one of those people that will look at what you're stopping on, and I want to understand why. It's such an interesting thing to do.
Oh, I love
There you
that. So
go.
if you're a therapist and you've got this woman behind you that's like stalking you on your phone, checking out these
Yeah, I'm
photos,
sorry.
it'll be
I'm
Elena.
that
It'll be her.
person, but I don't. I'm just doing it for research. Like, just help me out because it's. By the way, this is consumer
Help me
listening.
out.
This is one of the toughest things that
Mhm,
that we have to do. We have to understand. Like, if we have to understand what members of the public are, what are they worried
mhm,
about? Like, what are their
mhm.
concerns? How are we helping them? How are we solving their problems? Like with law, people just worry. People don't want lawyer. They don't want to be in a position where they need a lawyer. Like they simply don't. I don't, and I'm a lawyer, and would never want to instruct myself. I always just say to my clients, I hope you never need me, but if you do, like I'm here.
Yeah,
Um, and they'd always have a little laugh. But you know that interaction was always tinged with sadness because your client doesn't
yeah,
want to be there. They don't want to speak to you. They don't want to deal with you. They don't want to be injured. They don't want to be going through a
no,
divorce. How are you helping them in that scenario? And that's what's important. It's important to play on emotion. I think if you want your content to cut through. I was on a call with TikTok yesterday, and a great suggestion. He said, "How does somebody feel before, during, and after using your services?" Maybe make content around that. Maybe say like before, someone was really confused, they were really worried, they were listening to friends and family who always gave certain opinions or certain suggestions. Um, and whilst they were using you, they were always like reassured, and then afterwards they had a life to get on with or to look forward to. So i would
yeah.
i would i would look at that, and that's advice from TikTok, so you can't
Yeah,
worth a try anyway, see how that goes.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. So hopefully, Ashley, that's answered your question about family law and TikTok. That is the place to be. Please let us know if you need any more guidance on that one. We've had another question in. Thank you for your helpful advice, Eleanor. So that's
Very
lovely.
welcome.
What would you advise when trying to target a specific audience? For example, sometimes people above the age of 40 may not be very active on social media platforms. What is a good way to get their attention and bring them to the firm?
We don't know what area of law, do we? We don't know what industry or
We
what niche.
don't know. So, Marianne, if you are still here, if you can drop into the comments box, please, and with any extra information, that would be really useful.
And but to answer that, just in a more generic way, if somebody is in there in the let's say 40 to 50 demographic, they're still on social media. They are. They really are. Trust me, I ride enough
I am.
buses to know. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, to
definitely.
know that they definitely are. You just have to figure out where they hang out. What is that person doing online?
Yeah.
To
Or
understand
family
that.
law.
It's family law, yeah. So
Yeah.
again, it goes back to
Yeah.
that. They might have kids, they might be interested in cooking, it might be gardening. It's about doing a client persona. It's about
Mhm.
draw a picture of a stick person, which is what we do. I mean, I had them on the back here, but it looked like a crazy, like, I don't know, I just made myself look really, really crazy when I had all these scrolls like on the back. But we do client persona work where we draw somebody out, and we say, right, what do we think this person does, where
Yeah.
what do we think their interests are. And then it's about trying different types of content. That's important as well. So when we're on ads, we're running 3 or 4 different ads to see what's working, what isn't working. It's about trying different things to see like TikTok gives you the first 200 to 300 views as well. That's worth remembering. It'll push your content
Okay.
out to 200 to 300 people to test it. And a lot of people end up being in that 200 to 300 view jail because their content isn't very good and it's not going to get pushed out to more people. And that's
Mhm.
when you know, right, why not? I need to go back and refine it. But let's look over our client persona again, because they are online, they are there. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that TikTok might not be the platform for you. Like I never used TikTok when I had the injury solicitor because it wasn't a platform. It is now in 2020. It was still very much like lockdown, Joe Wicks, exercising at home, baking banana bread. It was that type of thing. And
Tiger
I
King.
yeah, and I didn't know enough about it. It was only data we've really got over the last 6 to 8 months that has said to us that that's like the platform that you want to concentrate on. But let's say forget about TikTok for a second. If you're a smaller business, you only really want to concentrate on 1 or 2 platforms. Have a look at LinkedIn, like for family law, because couldn't tell you how many personal injury clients I got off LinkedIn. And people always said to me, "You'll never find your clients on here. You'll never find your clients on here." I had the best professional, like personal injury clients on there, and not just them. It's about connecting with other lawyers who might not do personal injury, might not do family law,
Mhm.
but they still want to refer their clients who have that particular problem to somebody they trust. And that's really, really important. So I had a lot of lawyers who didn't do personal injury that referred those clients onto me, that recommended me to those clients. But also a lot of your clients probably will hang out on LinkedIn. They might not engage. This is the really important thing, is that people don't necessarily like engaging with lawyers, especially if it's, more like a personal thing. So don't worry about that. Most people on LinkedIn are lurkers, unfortunately, which doesn't help us, but that's just the reality of it. But I would definitely, for family law, TikTok, and LinkedIn, and I would definitely comment. I don't think company pages on LinkedIn are dead. I don't. I just think that up until a certain point where they can have their own almost identity,
Mhm.
that the person will be highly involved in the brand building on a platform like LinkedIn. We have a company page. We post on that every single day. We are followed by people who aren't connected with me, which is, I don't know. I don't know whether I should be insulted or proud of that, but it's sometimes people just want to see, look, we just rather follow a company page, not a person
Yeah.
it's there for. Um, but yeah, those two platforms, if you are going to focus, I would focus on those. I also use, I mean, this is worth mentioning, and I do speak about Facebook to my clients. In smaller regions around the country, Facebook is still quite a prominent platform that people
Okay.
use. In your larger cities, it's not that relevant, but in the smaller cities, you can still make a bit of an impact by going to community pages. I did post in my local groups, and I did get claims that way. It just didn't have as much of an impact as other platforms, where when you're small, you really have to focus your resources where you're getting the most return on that investment or the time that you're investing. But I would, if you're somewhere that is, not London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, if you are somewhere more regional in that respect, I would look at your local Facebook community groups and see if you can, and also maybe the Facebook is the platform that you know the most, that you know it
Yeah.
better than TikTok. So why not see if you can make um some progress there, and then that will give you that confidence to
Yeah.
maybe look at other platforms. So I don't think Facebook is dead. It just doesn't give us as much of a reach as other platforms do. But if you're comfortable there, I'd explore that, because I did. And it was like legal groups, legal advice. You'll have mom groups, you'll have family groups, you'll have dad groups, you will have like all sorts of groups on there that you could potentially look at promoting your business in.
Yeah, that's a really good point, especially if you live and work in a small town. People might sort of be aware of your firm, but not really on the radar. So by posting a bit more on Facebook and getting your name out there, that can certainly help and put a face to the name and go, oh, okay, I think I've heard of that law firm. This is a bit more about the people that work there. That sounds interesting, and then you'll be first of mind when you or somebody needs to enlist legal services for sure.
Yeah.
So we've had a comment from Steve. He's over 60 and he's very active on social media. Good for you, Steve.
Fantastic.
Good for
That's what we
you.
like to
Yeah,
hear. And that proves
keep flying,
that
flying like
proves it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It honestly, I think people would be so surprised if they truly understood sort of like the age um demographics of social media users. And I think we get surprised by it. And it's, yeah, it's about, I think in all honesty, it's about trial and testing. And I always used to say in law
Yeah,
that just as we figured out, or we thought we understood a certain rule or a certain piece of legislation, they went and changed it, right? Just as lawyers get their heads around it, they then go and change it. It's the same with social media, right?
yeah,
Just as we think, oh, do you know, we've cracked it. Oh, by the way, this is a really interesting point. TikTok now is prioritizing pictures on its platform. So anybody who's scared of
mm,
videos, post a picture. post a picture
Okay,
because they
that's
want to
new.
get people off. By the way, all the social media platforms, they're just competing with each other. What one platform
Yeah.
is doing, the other platform wants to do. And likewise, that's why Instagram started Reels, which is their version of video
Mm.
content, and because TikTok was capitalizing on the video content. Now
Yeah.
TikTok wants long form videos because they want to take the audience off YouTube. Um, I would, yeah. So now you can post videos, sorry, pictures, a single picture, or you can post several pictures where people just scroll. And we're doing that for some of our clients where we can't get the video content, so we're just creating pictures with text over it, and we're putting that out there, and it's performing no worse than some of the video content. It's really kind of like about trialing it, testing it, and seeing what works for you. But I do think it's important to try and target the next user um, of legal services.
Yeah, yeah, completely agree with you there. Awesome. Oh gosh, well, all these great nuggets coming from you today, Eleanor. So thank you for that. Any final questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. So we're going to wrap up in a moment. Is there anything exciting coming up for you in social legal that you want to share with us today?
Is there anything exciting coming up? I don't think that there's anything coming up. We're just developing the influencer agency at the moment.
Mm.
We've got quite a big push on that. We've got some great guys on our roster who are little superstars in their own right. And any business or brand that wants to reach lawyers as a potential customer base, that's what that's what our USP is going to be in that respect. So
Yeah.
we're working on that. I mean, just to give you an idea, House of CB, female women's fashion brand,
Mhm.
sent dresses to 3 of our influencers, and one of the videos did almost 200 views. In fact, it might even be on over views. So that get 200,000 views. So that gives you an idea of the reach
Yeah.
that influencers can have. And influencer marketing is very, very common and well known within fashion, beauty, fitness, lifestyle type of industries, but it's just not known in more of a professional setting. And it's a challenge because then it kind of means that I have to explain it every single time. So whereas like
Yeah.
for beauty influencer, people kind of know what that's about. But the legal influences, there's a lot of sort of like interesting legal companies, legal tech companies, even banking companies um, that can work with them to reach that audience. Yeah, our roster is I don't know, it's we've capped it at 25 influencers now. I'm not taking any more. People can come off,
Oh.
but it's like managing 25 mini lawyers.
Yeah,
It's
must
not
be a bit of a handful.
it's not simple, and it's challenging because actually they study or work full time as well, and we mentioned how busy
Yeah.
lawyers are. So it's a real. But when you get a good brand collaboration, or you think that there's
Mm.
scope in there, that's when that can create something special.
Yeah, I love that, and I did actually catch that video this morning, all the unboxing videos, which are really cool. And I guess because it's not very well known within the legal industry, getting into influencer marketing could be something that makes your brand or business really, really stand out. So get on in it before it gets too
We
saturated.
have we have we have 25 influencers, and we have, I'd say, last time I think when we did a request to promote legal services, we had at least 10 that are not tied to their own
Yeah.
law firms, whether they're self-employed
Okay.
or whether they're students. And yeah, there's definitely sort of scope there. It's still new, and I'd be lying if I said that it was something that it's an embedded business. We're still a baby business, really. And a lot of things that we do, whilst we can back it up with certain data now, it's still, there's no guarantee that an influencer will kind of have will reach those kind of objectives that you might have. But certainly with the numbers and with the audience, how else would you get? I mean, we have 1 million followers across the roster of just 25 people. How else will a brand of business get seen by up to 1 million people? When you kind of think
Yeah,
of it like that, the numbers sort of speak for
definitely.
themselves.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So closing up, we'll just finish with a comment from Yvette, who is a number one fan of us over here. Very interesting comments about how useful LinkedIn is even if you are more B2C than B2B due to referrals, etc. And if
Yeah.
you want to catch my previous guest, I had Rob Flint on, and we spoke about his advisory agency for referrals between law firms. So it is definitely worth getting on LinkedIn, even if you don't think you're going to get clients from there, which you probably will. Chances are you'll pick up some referrals and some connections, which is really lovely. As Elena said, we refer business to each other. Technically, we could be looked at sort of as competition, but not really, because we do different things. But it's and it's just a nice collaborative place to be, and yeah, we love it that way.
We do, and there's 10,000 law firms. In the maybe 9,000, maybe I don't think it's quite 10.
Okay.
So there's plenty of
There's plenty.
plenty to go around, plenty to connect with, and honestly, lawyers are still my favorite people to work with, and they really are, even though they don't want to be on camera. But I'm working on it. Thank you so much, Becky.
Awesome. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for listening, guys. So I will see you next week.
Thank you.